Housing Secretary Robert Jenrick, who joins us this morning. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning,
Morning.
Julia.
I think you're in Mansfield today. You've been announcing a new discounted homes scheme for key workers and local residents. How does that work?
That's right. I'm actually in Bolsover, but
Bolsover,
not so far
apologies.
away. I'm sat in the show home as we speak. We're launching today our first homes. These are new build homes that are going to be sold with discounts of at least 30% to local first-time buyers or key workers like NHS workers, police officers, veterans from the armed forces, to help people get on the housing ladder in their own local area at an affordable price.
And again, for some reason, we never seem to see a real policy that actually makes a difference to price, which is massively boosting supply, because you boost supply, then you can match demand. And then, of course, we will see prices going down without all of these cunning little schemes.
Well, I'm trying to do both of those things. You're right that we're bringing forward great schemes to help people onto the housing ladder, like first homes, but we're also trying to reform our planning system so that we can increase the number and the quality of homes that are being brought forward. And the work that we've done already is bearing fruit. Remember, last year we built 240,000 new homes in this country, the most since 1987. So we are building more homes, but there's more to do. Okay. That's why we'll be bringing forward further reforms later this year.
All right. Well, let's talk about the really big news in the last 24 hours. And this is, well, frankly, travel chaos that has been inflicted after your colleague, Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, announced that Portugal was now coming off the green list of travel countries as of next Tuesday. No other countries added to the green list. Holiday chaos for many, many millions of Brits hoping to get abroad, not just to Portugal, but other countries they're hoping will make it onto the green list. And, of course, a massive big hit for our tourism industry here, basically telling most of Europe, yeah, you're not going to be able to come here without quarantining, so don't bother booking your holidays. Why has this been done?
Well, I appreciate how difficult this is, particularly for people who've made bookings and for the thousands of people who work in the industry, as you say.
Millions.
But we have been clear that we wouldn't hesitate to take action if it was needed, if there was a change in circumstance. And having reviewed the data, as we do every 3 weeks, we concluded that one country that was on the green list, Portugal, there are reasons to be concerned, and so it should come off and go on to the amber list. There are really two issues that we've seen in Portugal. Firstly, there's been a doubling in positivity in 3 weeks, bringing Portugal to a much higher level of positivity than we're seeing in the UK. And secondly, and arguably more importantly, like here, the Indian variant, the Delta variant, has become more prevalent, but unlike the UK thus far, there is evidence of a further mutation, the Nepal variant, and we decided to take a cautious approach to that and move Portugal off whilst we learn more about that variant and whether or not it's a problem.
And again, we are now treating all of these variants as if they are a problem and less known otherwise, aren't we? Because we're going to see variant after variant after variant. There have been hundreds of thousands already. We don't know whether this Nepalese variant, which, by the way, the Nepalese government and the World Health Organization say they know next to nothing about. We don't know that it's any more transmissible or any more dangerous. But if we're going to treat this variant as, well, it could be, are we not going to treat the next ones as that as well? In which case, we never get out of this, do we? There's always going to be a new variant of concern, so we're always going to have travel restrictions. Is that right?
Well, you're right to say that we don't know a great deal about the variant. That work is happening right now. Our scientists are conducting tests, are trying to learn how transmissible it is, how virulent it is, and most importantly of all, how strong our vaccines are against it. And we could wait and see, but we've chosen the most cautious approach, if you like, but I think the best one in the national interest, which is to take action now whilst we're doing that work, in case this is an issue. We all breathed a sigh of relief when we learnt that our vaccines are effective against the Indian variant, for example. Imagine how we would feel if we learned that this was the variant that was able to defeat the vaccine. We don't want that to happen. Okay, so let's learn.
Right. Whilst... Yes, isn't it fabulous the vaccines work on all the variants so far? I mean, yes, okay, a double vaccine needed for the Indian variant, which we know half of the adults in this country have now had 2 jabs, 3/4 have had 1 jab. All of the people who are vulnerable through age or illness have now had those jabs. We're not going to get any safer. That's as safe as we get. As I asked you, if we're concerned about this variant, but we don't know that it's more of a risk to us, and we'll say we're going to take these, as you call, cautious measures, and we're going to not have travel, and who knows whether or not we're going to see the 21st of June, Freedom Day, happening. then by that logic, we will carry on doing that for all future variants. So this never ends. Tell me why we would do this for this variant and we wouldn't do it for the next one.
Well, although we have made huge progress with the vaccine rollout, one of the leading countries in the world, it is still only the case that 50% of the population has had both of their jabs. Just over 75% have had one. Mm-hmm. So we're making huge progress, but we will make a lot more progress over the course of the next month or so when we get to the point where all adults in the country have been vaccinated and everyone's had both jabs.
You didn't answer my question, and B, that wasn't the deal. Secretary of State, if you're going to do it for this variant, what's going to stop you from doing it for the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one? And then I'm 80 years old and we're still having restrictions on travel. What's to stop the next one being the cause of the same thing? When do we stop doing this?
Well, the first thing to say is that we will soon have fully vaccinated the whole population. That isn't the case today, but we can see that there is a route to that.
But if the variants aren't affected by the vaccine...
So we'll certainly be in a better position in the weeks ahead once the whole adult population has been vaccinated. You're right to say that in addition to that, there is a concern that a variant might emerge for which our current vaccines are not fully effective. That, I think, is why we need to proceed cautiously right now, whilst we learn about this particular variant.
Are you just not going to answer my question? I won't bother asking it again. If you're just going to say, no, what is to stop us? We're going to keep doing this, aren't we? We're just going to keep doing this forever.
No, I think I've answered your question, Julia. The position of the country will improve significantly in the weeks ahead because we will get to the point where the whole adult population has been offered a vaccine. Let's hope as many people as possible get both jabs.
That wasn't the deal, though. That wasn't the deal in January. We were told another lockdown. I never agreed with this, by the way. We were told another 3 weeks to flatten the curve, March last year. Long 3 weeks, I think you'd agree. This time round, we were told just while the rollout of the vaccine to the most vulnerable people. That was to over 70s. Then it became over 50s. Now it's all adults. Now it's a certain level of effectiveness. Originally, these vaccines would have been approved at just 50% effectiveness. They're vastly more effective than that. But the goalposts keep being moved. I mean, they've moved so far off the pitch. We've basically got the Champions League final being played, back in Istanbul at this point. When do the goalposts stop being moved? And when do we say there may be future variants in the future that aren't as affected by the vaccine? Not everyone is safe. Not everyone will ever be safe. But we're going to get back to normal life because we can't continue to live like this.
Well, so far, we have met the steps on the roadmap. We've done that because of people following the rules, because of the success of the vaccine rollout. What we want to do right now is put us in the best possible place as a country to be able to move forward with the next stage on the 21st of June. And so that does mean protecting our domestic position by limiting international travel. That's a difficult choice. There are no easy choices in this sphere. I think most people will understand that, given the progress we've made, given what we want to do on the 21st of June. There's no guarantee of that, but that's certainly what we're trying to achieve. Let's take these further steps. Let's have a cautious approach to international travel so that we can live our lives here.
That's the trade-off,
with as much freedom as we possibly can.
Basically, the government has done some focus groups, and you've discovered that a lot of people are quite puritanical about this. They don't feel safe to travel themselves. They don't want the borders closed, whether or not it has any effect whatsoever. So you're going to close the borders effectively again without being honest about it, because saying people can travel to New Zealand isn't actually much use when they wouldn't let us in anyway, in return for us getting our freedoms back here. And you want us to be grateful for that.
No, I want us to be safe and secure as a country. And that means giving us the time to vaccinate as many people as possible. We know that within weeks we will reach the point where the whole population has been offered a vaccine, and that does give us further protection. And I think if that comes at a cost of somewhat less international travel, then I think that's a sensible choice to take right now.
Well, that's a choice, but no, that's not a choice.
Approach to international travel
Mr.
in
Jenrick.
order to ensure domestic freedom, that people's livelihoods can be protected here.
That's a choice you might be happy to make. It's not a choice I'm happy to make. I don't accept that choice, and yet I'm not given that choice, and millions of others aren't. You say, OK, when every adult has been offered the vaccine, now there's been talk also of children as young as 12 getting the vaccine. And of course, children are at virtually zero risk from this, healthy children, are virtually zero risk from this virus. Are you saying that, I mean, we were told when over 70s had the vaccine, then we were told over 50s, and now we're told, having 2 vaccines, and now we're told over 18s. So when every over 18-year-old has had the vaccine, do we get all our freedoms back?
Well, we want to be able to proceed on the 21st of June, Julia, with the next stage of the reopening. If we can do that, then we will have moved through the roadmap entirely as planned.
But without being allowed to travel abroad.
About international travel, and for that, I think it is right to exercise a degree of caution. We're talking about holidays here. There is, plenty of places we can all go on holiday within the UK. I appreciate that many people would love to get away for that
and see their families abroad,
with good weather internationally. But if we can be a bit more cautious on that front, and therefore make it easier to move forward with the reopening here in the UK. I think that's a sensible balance.
You think it is? I disagree, with all due respect. I think you've used the word cautious 5 times now, possibly more. Cautious for whom? Because, again, I've had COVID. I had it last year, and I've had 2 jabs. I'm as protected as I'm ever going to be. I won't ever be any more protected than I am, along with many, many millions of other people. I don't want the government to make me 100% safe. I don't think that's your job. I choose to go skiing. I choose to go scuba diving. I've cage dive with great white sharks. I'm allowed to make choices about my safety all the time. In this one area, the government has decided to wrap the entire country in cotton wool and say we're going to accept virtually no COVID deaths whatsoever in return for this, restricting these freedoms. When is going to be enough? What level of deaths, what level of risks, what level of cases is going to be enough where we say, that's it now, we've done what we can, and now we're getting back to normal?
Well, look, Julie, you're fortunate to be in the position of having both of your jabs. Half the adult population of this country is not yet in that position, despite the fact that we are one of the leading country in the world for the rollout. So I don't think it's unreasonable to wait a bit longer in order to ensure that more of the population get their 2 jabs. But we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we stick to the roadmap. That is what we want to happen, so that there can be those extra freedoms here in the UK, so that those businesses can have the ability to prosper again. In order to do that, we have to take a cautious approach in some other respects. And we've chosen to do that with one country on the green list.
The only major holiday destination for Brits this summer. Well, meanwhile, the rest of the EU is probably from the 1st of July going to open up 2 jabs. They're 10 weeks behind us on the jab rollout, most of them. You can have 2 jabs or a test and you can travel freely without quarantine. So we're going to totally throw away our vaccine advantage there.
Well, I don't think there's any reason to say we're going to throw away our advantage. Our advantage is that we're able to be meeting up now in our homes, in going to pubs and restaurants.
Thank you
we're
so
able
much.
To have much greater freedom
sir.
than we had
I'm so grateful of being allowed to see my family. You're so kind to us. I mean, really? Really? Are we supposed to be grateful for basic fundamental democratic freedoms now?
Well, look, I want to open up the economy as fast as we possibly can, Julia. But to do that, we need to see the evidence that we're moving in the right direction. That's being reviewed right now by the Prime Minister ahead of the decision point for the 21st of June. If we can, we will be doing it. Okay. But what we're discussing today is that we exercise a degree of caution.
There we go. Caution. If anyone had caution in their cabinet minister bingo card, you've won a lot of points. Finally, next week, American president arrives, going to meet the Queen and Boris Johnson, other G7 leaders, and indeed some other countries' representatives as well. We've got finance meetings, health meetings today and tomorrow. Huge numbers of people, all of their entourages, all arriving in the country. How many people are arriving for the G7 summit in Cornwall, and how many of those will have had to self-isolate?
Well, I don't know the precise details, to be honest, Julia,
Thousands,
but a lot of thought has been put into this, I do know, by the Foreign Office and the relevant authorities to make sure this is as safe as possible. And they will be taking precautions. There will be regular testing, of course, to make sure this is successful. Why can't
ordinary Brits, thousands of people are going to arrive, security staff, entourages, secretaries, everybody are going to arrive along with the American president and the French leader and all the other countries' leaders. They are not going to have to self-isolate. Is that because COVID doesn't actually infect people who are on diplomatic passports, or because they're rich and powerful and it only affects ordinary people like me and my listeners? Why is that?
Well, a lot of thought and planning has gone into this. It will be vastly reduced in scale from previous gatherings of this kind. So the sorts of entourages that you're referring to, I think, will be on an altogether different scale to what we've seen in the past.
But they don't have to self-isolate.
We will be taking precautions to make sure that the event goes ahead, which is an important one for the UK and our leadership in the world, but that it's done as safely as possible.
But without self-isolation, so it's not as safe as possible, is it? I mean, if everyone else has to self-isolate coming into the country, then we need these people to self-isolate, don't we? But apparently not.
Well, I don't know the precise details of the arrangements for the diplomats and world leaders that are coming to the UK. As I say, there will be far fewer than on occasions in the past, and precautions are being taken to make sure that people are tested and to make sure that if anyone does
you can see why people will be cross. People who've had to cancel their summer holidays are going to be rather cross about this, though, aren't they?
Look, I appreciate how frustrating it is. There are lots of people in this country who would love to go abroad for a summer holiday. There are still some based on the green list, but this is not a normal time, and it's not a normal time to be going on holiday. And so if you do choose to book a holiday, please exercise care and make sure that the operator that you're booking from is one that gives you the flexibility you need in case things change.
Thank you very much. And I've kept you over time, Robert Jenrick. And I know you're not responsible for those decisions yourself as coming from Number 10. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, Housing Secretary Robert Jenrick. But